Welcome to the evening show. This is your host, Captain Zach, and today's subreddit is IDontWorkHereLady. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode. This first story was called, Manager Fires This Worker, Time to Have Some Fun. A brief background. I'm Middle Eastern who lived in the UAE in the capital of Abu Dhabi. I'm a local, but I don't look it as my mother is from Egypt, and I would get mistaken for other nationalities often. On to the story. My niece got a new pet about a month ago from one of her friends, a 5-month-old German Shepherd, and she's the cutest thing ever. Unfortunately, the friend didn't bring enough food for the puppy, so I went the next day to a hypermarket nearby to buy some for her. I was told she liked a particular brand, so I decided to go inside without a cart or a basket to see if they had it, then go back out for a cart. On my way to the pet food aisle, I heard shouting and yelling from close by, and out of curiosity, I went to check it out. I saw one of the workers and a wild Karen. While she didn't look like a Karen, she sure as heck acted like one, screaming at the poor guy about how incompetent and rude he is, and ignoring her when she was trying to get his attention. And, of course, she was yelling for a manager. That's when she turned around and locked eyes with me, and made a beeline to where I was. Now, keep in mind, the worker's uniform is a yellow or light blue shirt with the hypermarket name on it in big letters, and the managers wear full suits. I was wearing black jeans and a dark blue shirt. Also, majority of the staff were either from India or the Philippines. Now for the cast. Obnoxious lady, poor worker, manager, and yours truly.
Yo, manager, this employee of yours was very rude to me. He ignored me when I was trying to get his attention for 10 minutes, and is refusing to help me and yelled at me. I want him fired.
The first thought that came to mind was to tell her that I didn't work there. But after seeing the condition poor worker was in, I decided to have some fun. Now, my English has a good American accent, but I also have a fairly decent Indian accent. So, without hesitation, I switched my accent to Indian mode. I am so sorry, madam. We've had many complaints about this problem worker, but don't worry, I will discipline him. And, as a form of apology, please go about your shopping and at the cashier, just give them my name, Roger Patel, and tell them I approved a 40% discount on the total sum for you.
At least management knows how to treat paying customers.
I went to poor worker, grabbed his arm and started walking away, berating him along the way until we made a turn and we were out of sight of the old lady. That's when the poor worker said, "Am I in trouble?" It seems poor worker was new and also mistook me for a manager, and he thought he was going to be fired. Poor guy. I'm not a manager and you're not in any trouble. I just wanted to get you away from her. And then I walked away, waving goodbye at him. I grabbed a cart and went on to buy my puppy her chow and some other things for her. Some toys, a new collar, a leash, and a comfy bed. And some other items for myself. After I grabbed what I needed and made my way to the cashier, that's when I heard a familiar screaming and yelling. And sure enough, there was old lady, arguing with one of the cashiers and an actual manager, trying to convince them that she was allowed the huge discount on all of her items, full cart's worth, while I was laughing on the inside. Then she spotted me, pointed at me, and yelled,
That's him! That's him! That's Roger Patel, the manager who approved my discount!
The manager and cashier both looked at me with confusion in their eyes, and the manager said, "Ma'am, this gentleman doesn't work here."
Yes, he does. Why would he give me the discount? He was even disciplining one of your workers.
Manager and old lady made their way to me, and I acted like I didn't know what was going on. Manager, pointing at old lady, says, "Excuse me, sir, do you know this lady?" I switched on my American accent. No, I've never seen this woman before."
You're lying! I talked to you about that lazy, rude worker of yours, and you gave the discount as an apology.
Lady, do I look like I work here? I'm a customer, just like you. It was in that moment that poor worker walked by. Old lady pointed at him and said,
There, that's that worker I complained about to his manager.
Manager called poor worker over and asked him, "Have you seen this gentleman as well as this lady before?" Poor worker looked at me and old lady and said, "No sir, I haven't."
Don't lie! I was talking to you 30 minutes ago when you refused to help me.
Madam, this is the first time I'm seeing you or this gentleman. Maybe you had me confused with another worker. Manager nodded and told poor worker to go back to his work, and as poor worker walked away, he looked at me with a smile and a thumbs up, which no one saw. Old lady was fuming with a face that was redder than a ripe tomato. I turned to manager. Sir, you're obviously wearing a suit like all the other managers working here, and I'm wearing casual. Who in their right mind would confuse a customer with a worker or a manager? The manager nods in agreement. Sorry to disturb you, sir. Have a nice day. I nodded back, paid for my items, and walked away, with old lady still screaming and cussing until manager ended up calling security to escort her out of the building. And I went home with the puppy chow, the rest of her stuff, and the biggest grin on my face. This victory worked out flawlessly. These two people had each other's back and it was beautiful. It was this beautiful, unspoken agreement between these two guys and it worked out amazing. This story was called, She Doesn't Work Here, Butthole. Some backstory. At my store, there's a certain tall goth woman who comes in only at night. She's very gorgeous and she was dressed in short shorts and a tank top that showed her tattoos. She was very pale and has sleeves and a few calf tattoos. She's never worked in my store and she never bothers anyone except to ask for help. So she comes in around 6:24, which means there's still sun outside and still warm. I greet her and we talk for a second. I ask her why she's out during the day and she explained that she ran out of tampons and she needed more. I point the aisle out and we part ways. I try to cut down the cart full of go-backs. I was about 3 aisles away from the feminine hygiene aisle when I heard yelling. I thought it was another crazy customer who came in and threw crap around, so I quickly ran with the cart to the aisle. It was Goth Chick and an older man who'll be A-hole. Goth Chick's arm was being grabbed by A-hole who was berating Goth Chick for not helping him when he asked. Goth Chick was trying to tell A-hole off and yank her arm away. I went up and asked Goth Chick what happened, ignoring Butthole. She explained that she was just trying to put some packages of pads up that she knocked over and Butthole had asked her where an item was. And she told him how she didn't work there. I asked A-hole to let Goth Chick go and that she didn't work here. He got mad and gripped her arm tighter before unleashing a rant of how Goth Chick should be fired and demanded that I get the manager. I was tired, so I didn't really give a crap and told A-hole to let go of Goth Chick and that she doesn't work here. Yeah, that was a mistake. A-hole screamed how I was
the worst employee here, and that Goth Chick is a gardening tool for dressing like that in the workforce.
I told A-hole to pay for his items and leave. He refused and said he wouldn't leave until he saw the manager and to see this stupid little girl be fired. I lost the one remaining care I gave and told A-hole to just leave Gothic Chick alone and that I'm going to get the security guard now. Butthole then dropped his handbasket full of items onto the floor and stormed out. He ranted and raved that
everyone is stupid and dumb craps like them,
Gothic Chick and me,
shouldn't be working and should be in the kitchen.
I didn't know how to react, so I turned and asked Gothic Chick if she was okay. She said she was, and she just hated people like that craphead and wanted to go home. I got her a cold water from the break room and walked her up front. I got my manager, who's a great woman, and explained everything to her. Gothic Chick showed my manager the bruise. The security guard came over but didn't do much since he was just a random guy. We didn't call the cops but decided to file a report and have the guy 86'd. I walked Gothic Chick out to her car and told her to have a good night and apologized for Butthole. My manager told me that I handled the situation well, but I don't know. The rest of the shift was pretty uneventful, but I still can't help but feel awful for Gothic Chick having to deal with A-hole's abuse. Wow. Yeah, honestly, the police could have gotten involved in that, and it's really kind of messed up that that guy did that to her. But what's this subreddit for? It's to put these idiots on blast. This story was called Entitled Karen Thinks I'm a Janitor. Now, this happened about 7 years ago, and while I did work in the same building, it was not as a custodian. I was about 19 or 20 when I worked in a hospital's food service department as a food service aide, and since the hospital was small, we were the only food option available in the building aside from a vending machine on the 4th floor. So we had a small cafeteria, and the kitchen was responsible for making food for both the hotline in the cafeteria and the food for the patient's room. We were always understaffed and run ragged all the time. I worked as a dishwasher, a cook in the cafeteria, and during lunch and dinner shifts, I delivered food to patients' rooms. Now, because I worked in the food service department, I never got mistaken as a custodian thanks to the different uniforms. My department, at the time, wore ugly barf green uniform shirts, black uniform pants, hairnets, a stupid black chef hat, and black shoes. They were so bad, many of the girls were mistaken for guys because of how they were made to fit our bodies. Custodians wore a bright blue polo, black pants, and black shoes. Plus, 9 times out of 10, they had either a cleaning cart with them or some kind of cleaning supply. Trust me, this is all important. Now, I was used to getting ordered around by nurses because of diet sheets and having to deal with irate patients because they were getting beef or chicken broth after surgery. It was all part of being at the bottom of the totem pole. However, patients or their families were, most of the time, very nice and happy to see us since we were bringing food. But on this particular day, I was in a pretty foul mood. An entitled nurse was threatening to call my boss if I didn't hand over extra pre-made sandwiches for her and her crew, when she knows we are not allowed to do that. It was late and I was running behind on serving patients their dinner. I was on my first floor and was about to get another food cart to go to the ICU when I felt a harsh tap on my shoulder. Here's the cast. There's me, Karen,
And supervisor.
Oh, finally! Do you know how long I've been calling the nurses station for you people? I'm sorry. Were you trying to get a hold of food service? No, I've been calling for you. Do you know how long I've been waiting for you? Back then, I wasn't very good with people. If anything, I used to run away from conflict. But thanks to this place, I was growing a bit of a backbone due to the rude nurse staff. And because she caught me in a bad mood, I probably had a "what the fuck
do you want?"
look on my face. I'm sorry? How can I help you? My insert relative here due to HIPAA has been waiting for someone to clean their room. I have been paging their nurses station over and over again, but they won't call someone. I would have felt sorry for her had she been a bit nicer to me, since I knew this problem rather well. At the time, the nurses of that floor were entitled and horrible. Many had gotten fired for improper care of patients after I left a couple years later, and thankfully the place is much better now. But back then, this was a common complaint. But since she was being a butt to me, I didn't really feel like BSing her with my fake smile and taking her complaint seriously. She had the aura about her that screamed, "I'm better than you," and I personally cannot stand that. I'm sorry. I'm sure they called for someone. If you wait, I'm sure. No, I'm not waiting. Get off your lazy butt and do your job. You serve the public, so you will listen to what I tell you. I realized what she was talking about. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not a custodian. I'm in food service. Stop making excuses and go clean the room. There's pee everywhere. And while you're at it, get your manager. You suck at your job. Ma'am, you need to keep your voice down. I work in food service. I will go get someone from— Shut your mouth! How dare you talk to me like that? I make much more money than you will ever make in your life. That means you serve me. Now do what I tell you! I go back and forth with her for a good 10 minutes trying to insist that I don't work as a janitor. And this prompts my supervisor to come to the floor. He was wondering why I was taking so long coming back to pick up the cart. And as he comes off the elevator, he sees me with the crazy Karen. I could almost see the urge to turn back and run into the elevator in his eyes, when Karen turns to see him standing there. Are you this guy's manager?
Yeah. How can I help you?
I want him fired. He's lying and saying he won't clean my insert relative here room. Looking confused, the supervisor looks to me as if wanting to know what happened. I look at him and mouth silently, "Help me, she's insane." He then looks to Karen.
Ma'am, she isn't a custodian. She's delivering food trays to very hungry patients and is not a custodian. Now, please keep your voice down or I will call for security.
How dare you! This man has lied to me and tried to assault me! What the nether kind of place is this?
She is a food service aide who more than likely has to get food for your relative and other patients.
The food is getting cold, so please leave her alone to do her actual job. This apparently annoyed her more as she began to yell in his face. And supervisor told me to go to the kitchen and ask one of the other aides to finish delivering food. I found out later that she was escorted off the property and that she was blacklisted by the relative from coming to see them. Turns out she was right outside their room and they were so embarrassed and angry about her actions that they told the hospital staff to move them to another room and to inform security to keep her from coming back to see them. She didn't take this too well, as the cops were called twice afterwards. I really hope you guys enjoyed that last really wacky entitled Karen Attacks the Hospital story. Personally, we really gotta appreciate that little last bit at the end, that the family blacklisted that evil woman from seeing them. So, clearly the crazy Karen kookiness doesn't run in the family. Good on them. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.